Canonically speaking, this is the first video I ever wrote for the channel. I made it back when I was an innocent little boy uncorrupted by the internet and all those Vaporeon posts on Reddit. But now I'm a dirty old man who owns an unhealthy number of Vaporeon plushies. With Princess Peach Showtime coming to Switch on March 22nd, I thought now would be the perfect time to talk about Peach's previous game. While I have made a few changes to the script, I'm leaving a lot of it largely untouched, so you can see just how much the internet has morphed me into the degenerate you've grown to know and love. Are you ready? It's showtime! When I first booted up Super Princess Peach, I thought it'd be a psychological horror game with Princess Peach suffering from PTSD due to the constant kidnappings by a horny guy who wants to marry her, probably so he can force her to have his children. Well, more of his children. I mean, where do you think Bowser Jr. came from? Instead, I got a lighthearted 2D platformer starring Peach and an umbrella. What makes Super Princess Peach a controversial game has to do with how Princess Peach is depicted. In Super Mario Bros. 2 and Super Smash Bros. Melee, Peach was on a level playing field with everyone else, though she did have her own unique abilities. But in this 2D platformer released in 2005 on Nintendo DS, Peach uses her emotions to beat enemies. Unlike Mario, who twerks on enemies while wearing a furry suit. Now, I know what you're thinking. Nintendo's right. Women are overly emotional and constantly need saving from men, which is why they shouldn't get their own video games. But in reality, you're wrong. Peach having control of her emotions makes her the most powerful character in the entire game. The adventure begins with Bowser finding the mysterious Vibe Scepter on Vibe Island, which he uses to capture Mario, Luigi, and Toad. Unfortunately, the Goomba used to accomplish this dastardly deed returns and goes nuts, using the scepter on everybody and forcing them to become overly emotional. At the same time, Peach returns from her walk and immediately decides to rescue Mario after realizing he's been taken, not taking a second to think about her safety. And this is where I could see why people had some negative things to say. At its core, this is a 2D platformer. Peach moves from left to right, hits enemies, and collects coins. Sounds exactly like Mario, right? Well, to compare it to a more recent game, I'd say it's closer to Shovel Knight. Peach's weapon in the game is an umbrella named Perry. Why it's an umbrella named Perry and not a parasol named Perry, I have no idea. Anyways, you can whack enemies with the umbrella and also toss them. And those coins you collect, they're not just for show or one-ups. You can use them in the shop to upgrade your umbrella, boost your health, or make your vibrator longer. It's a clever, refreshing way to differentiate Peach's game from Mario's games. So what's the issue people have? Well, as you can see on the bottom screen, there's a few different emotions you can tap at any given time, assuming your vibrator has enough juice. One makes Peach super angry, stomping around everywhere and burning things like bridges. Another makes Peach cry uncontrollably, which you can use to grow vines and create an ice slide. Calm restores your health, and the best one allows you to freaking fly in the air and remove enemies with a tornado. Basically, Peach's power comes from her ability to cry and get angry. Women are so emotional, right? At face value, this could be taken negatively. In actuality, though, it fits perfectly with the whole theme of the game. Yeah, maybe giving a starring role to your only prominent female character in a game solely focused on wild emotions wasn't the smartest decision, but Peach is the only character in the game able to harness their emotions and unleash them whenever they want. Nearly every Goomba or Koopa or Dry Bones you come across has a different uncontrollable emotion, whether it be anger or sadness or horniness. For example, in the very first level, you encounter a sad Goomba who runs away from you crying hysterically. Naturally, I ended its misery. In addition to Shovel Knight, there's also some Yoshi's Island tossed into Super Princess Peach with the throwing and end goal you jump through. I'd also say it takes some design cues from Kirby when it comes to your umbrella. Does this mishmashing of different 2D platformers all come together? Yeah, the gameplay is smooth, the graphics are bright and colorful, and I enjoyed making my way through Vibe Island. So why isn't Super Princess Peach a 10 out of 10 with multiple sequels? Well, there's a few reasons for that. For starters, the difficulty. 90% of this game is an absolute breeze. Until you get to the last couple of worlds, losing any lives is a challenge outside of boss battles. Between the ability to regenerate health and fly past obstacles, Super Princess Peach is far too easy. Many of the levels are still fun to get through, I just never really found myself clenching my DS to the point of nearly breaking it to ensure pinpoint platforming accuracy. On top of this, the game likes to tell you exactly what to do. While the hint boxes are optional, if you do hit it near a brand new obstacle, the game will tell you exactly which of your powers to use. Additionally, before every boss fight, a hint box will tell you exactly how to beat the boss. Some of the bosses are tough, and they require 5 hits instead of the typical 3, but these hints remove that trial and error of figuring things out on your own. Past the relative easiness, we have the bland level design. While the backgrounds change for each level, giving you the facade that things are different, I honestly could not tell the difference between the first 2 worlds. Later worlds do mix things up a bit by adding slight variations to the gameplay, like underwater sections where Perry becomes a submarine, zip lines, and hot air balloon rides, but the basic structure for each level remains the same. For a lot of the game, it did feel like I was playing the same base level, with the developers making minor variations to make them seem different. It's kind of like how everyone's first creation in Mario Maker is just the title screen level with a bit of personal touch. Again, the core of the game is still enjoyable, I'm just pointing out why Princess Peach isn't a flagship Nintendo franchise. You also have the music. At first I thought it was great, super upbeat and catchy, but as the hours passed by, I began to absolutely hate it. At a certain point, I realized that most pieces of music are the same 10 seconds played in a loop. So when I wasn't playing the game, I found myself haunted by the most repetitive noises going over and over and over in my head. It was a nice break from the constant screaming I usually have in my head though. And finally, Perry. The story revolves around your umbrella. Yes, seriously. You get drip-fed Perry's backstory after beating a boss, which essentially amounts to a kid being taken by evil people, turning into an umbrella, and then getting passed around for a bit until landing in Peach's hands. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but there's something far more sinister to Perry. Typically, to fill up the vibrator in Super Princess Peach, you pick up these blue orbs. But if that's not doing it for you, Perry can consume the life essence of unconscious enemies. Yes, Perry literally eats enemies to charge up. And there's even a sickening gulping noise to go along with the animation of an enemy disappearing. It's one thing to bonk an enemy until they fall off the stage. It's another to eat them alive like Kirby, the most sadistic character in Nintendo history. To sum up my negative thoughts on Super Princess Peach, I'd have to say it's like ordering a Big Mac from McDonald's and not getting the special sauce on it. It's almost everything you want, but that crucial ingredient is missing. To get back to the positivity, I'll talk about 3-5, the best level in the game. There isn't anything particularly remarkable about it, it's just the perfect example of everything coming together. It begins with a spring platforming section, then continues onto a boo chase sequence and finishes with a gravity manipulation section. Instead of just one simple idea like you'll find in most levels, it uses several different ideas, rewards you for using abilities, and does offer a bit of a challenge. There is a stupid picador to get to the final toad though, but Super Princess Peach couldn't keep the momentum up. The next world in the game, Furry Volcano, returns to the same old formula, except now there's lava. This world is where the lack of creativity, especially in the puzzles, truly shines through. Instead of having to complete a well-thought-out puzzle or use a combination of powers in a certain way to find toads, the game will either place a toad directly in your path or tell you exactly which power to use. It does this multiple times in each level, meaning there's no skill involved at all. You hit a switch or smash a box and that's it. And honestly, if it wasn't for those forced puzzles that are few and far between, I never would have used the anger or sadness emotions. Enemies can easily be defeated without anger, and sadness is simply useless. Flying is really the only useful ability, and it makes the game a breeze. Instead of using expert platforming skills to go from one ledge to another, dodging enemies, you can literally just fly up whenever you want. It's like having a full-powered Tanuki suit at your disposal at all times. Now, I do understand a lot of the gripes I have with Princess Peach could also be levied at New Super Mario Bros., but Mario is a man and Peach is a woman, so naturally she would get more flack. In all seriousness, I did try and play through New Super Mario Bros. U on Switch recently, and it's just as bland and uninspired as Super Princess Peach. However, the Mario gameplay is much smoother. Maybe the fact that Mario levels are shorter makes them seem better because I can't dwell on the boringness as much, but I'd still pick replaying New Super Mario Bros. Over Super Princess Peach. You know what, I'm tired of trying to explain why Super Princess Peach isn't an absolute masterpiece. Let's change things up again. While I wasn't a fan of the hand-holding ahead of boss battles, and the forced touchscreen minigame before them is just weird and unnecessary, a few of them are actually quite enjoyable. Plus, they offer up so much more variety than a typical Mario games is just jump on them 3 times and you win. Take this boss fight for example. You fight a gigantic owl named Who. No, his name is Who. The first half of the fight is just murdering its children and jumping on its head when it swoops down to attack you. Pretty standard 2D platformer stuff. Then it breaks the stage and you free fall. From there, you have to dodge its eggs and use Joy to fly above it, bonking it on the head 2 more times. Fairly straightforward and easy, especially after the game tells you exactly how to win? Yes. Fun and inventive? Also yes. There's these glimpses of greatness in the whole experience that kept me engaged and excited for the next boss, even if the previous one was lackluster. Then I came to World 7, easily the best in the entire game. Just like 3-5, there isn't anything groundbreaking or earth-shattering, it's just where a lot of their ideas mesh together properly and the level design and difficulty balance each other out. And the 8th and final world, Bowser's Villa, sort of continues that. However, the developers couldn't stay out of their way long enough and eventually decide to throw some bullcrap at ya. In the Penis Ultimate level, the developers end with Pick a Pipe. There's 10 in total and only 1 takes you to the exit. Because that particular area of the level wasn't obvious to find, and 7 of the pipes went nowhere, I assumed it was a bonus room and spent the next 10 minutes replaying the level looking for the exit. I finally looked up a walkthrough and learned that nope, 1 of those pipes leads you to the goal, you just have to try all 10. But that's not the bullcrap, that's just the smell you get leading up to the bullcrap. The true bullcrap is when you beat the level and are about to fight the final boss. I was all set to fight Bowser, but for whatever reason, I couldn't access it. That's when Perry the Platypus explained that you have to collect every toad from every single level to enter. Ultimate bullcrap move, Nintendo. It's not like this is a bonus level where you have to collect a certain amount of star coins to unlock. In order to literally beat the game, you have to find every single toad in every single level. I don't know if the game ever mentioned this previously, but even if they did, it's a bad look. Sure, I could have put more effort into collecting the toads along the way. I just got bored of it, and this is the type of game where you can think you're taking a pipe to a secret area only for it to take you to the end of the level. Instead of going back and finding a missing toad, I thought nothing of it and just exited. How dumb I was in my youth. So I had to go back and replay far too many levels just so I could see the end of the game. Finally though, after collecting every toad, I made it to Bowser. The boss fight is split into 3 sections. You fight some hammer bros for some reason, then ascend the castle to fight a Bowser who acts more like a linebacker. Then for no discernible reason, Bowser becomes gigantic and you have to fight his head and hands. Being able to regenerate health makes this easy, but for the first time in the entire game they don't tell you exactly how to beat the boss, and it's the one time where it would actually make sense to have an explanation. Instead of something that makes sense, you have to pick up bombs and throw them upwards so they explode directly into Bowser's eyes. If your timing is off by a fraction of a second, they miss. It's annoying and feels completely out of place in a game all about vibe powers, but then you win, Mario is rescued, the game wants to know how your mom is doing, and you unlock a lot of bonus levels. Like, a lot. Honestly, I only ended up playing a few of them. Nothing really new was introduced, and I had no desire to continue playing the game after defeating Bowser. Part of that is due to the fact that you have to rebattle every boss to unlock the next world's bonus levels. If they were more difficult this time around, fine. But they're literally the exact same fight, except now you have more health and a bigger vibrator. The good news is that you can skip those weird touchscreen missions ahead of the boss fight that have nothing whatsoever to do with the boss fight. Aside from the levels, you can play a few minigames and complete a few puzzles. The minigames have you tapping on the microphone to send a toad jumping, I got tired of blowing, or just dragging Toad along a level. I only played a few because you have to spend coins to unlock more, so if they do get exciting, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'd say they don't hold a candle to the minigames in Mario's DS adventures. There's also puzzles. I did one. It was a puzzle. I don't know what else to say about them. You place pieces. It's a puzzle. What do you want from me? And that's Super Princess Peach. Something I found interesting is that it never received a sequel. Sure, Wikipedia says it only sold 1.7 million copies, which is less than Yoshi's Island DS, yet more than Kirby Mass Attack, but why did the franchise never continue? If you look at Nintendo's other main 2D platformers, New Super Mario Bros. Saw a sequel on 3DS, Yoshi's Island saw a sequel on 3DS, and Kirby saw 2 games on 3DS. Yet no Super Princess Peach 2. Sure, you could point to the fact that it was made by Ghost developer Toes, but that shouldn't mean much. Just seems a bit weird to me. As someone who's always found review scores to be arbitrary, I'll have to give Super Princess Peach 7.5 girls with emotional problems out of 10 girls with daddy issues. That half on the 7.5 is the bottom half though, because then I don't have to listen to her talk. Did you hear that? That was the sound of Nintendo high-fiving me.